I don't need a relationship. I need my career. That's what I told my mom every time she started her usual song about how at 30, I should find a decent man already. But there I was, standing on stage at the Boston Convention Center, gripping the microphone with clammy hands, trying to ignore the whispers in the audience. Wait, that's Emily Frost? The one who won that big award? I could hear them saying. I thought she'd look different. I'd long gotten used to such comments. With my simple bob haircut, minimal makeup, and plus-size figure, I didn't fit the Hollywood image of a successful writer. But honestly, I couldn't care less. My books spoke for themselves. "Good evening," I said, trying to sound confident despite the slightly distorted microphone. "Thank you to the Prose and Pages team for inviting me. Today I'll be reading an excerpt from my novel. Yes, the one that won the National Book Award this year." I began reading. Some listened with their eyes closed, completely immersed in the text. Others were obviously bored, scrolling through their phones. And one guy by the wall seemed completely out of it, his gaze constantly returning to a red-headed woman across the room. Typical. After the official part came the networking. I was standing by the refreshment table, sipping water with lemon I'd never drink at a public event, when that same guy nearly crashed into me. "Oh, sorry," he mumbled. "No worries," I smiled. "Are you from Prose and Pages?" "Yeah, copy editor." He smiled awkwardly, clearly figuring out how to escape quickly. "Emily?" I extended my hand. "Alex?" He shook my hand. His grip was firm. "Congrats on the award." "Thanks. Been with the magazine long?" 6 months or so. Before that, I worked for a small newspaper in Portland. He seemed surprised himself at sharing this information with me. We were interrupted by some publisher in an expensive suit, eager to discuss synergies and potential collaborations. Typical networking. When I finally got rid of him, Alex was already gone. I stepped outside. It was pouring rain, a true Boston downpour. Luckily, my Uber was already pulling up. That's when I saw him. Soaked through, no umbrella, clearly planning to walk. "Hey, need a ride?" I called out. "My car's already here." "Thanks, but I'll take the subway," he began. "In this downpour?" "Come on, don't be ridiculous." In the taxi, I broke the awkward silence. "So, you're a copy editor. Do you write yourself?" "Nope," he answered. But something in his eyes told me that was a lie. Shame. Copy editors usually have an excellent feel for language. "And you just write books?" he asked, clearly out of politeness. "God, no," I chuckled. "I'm also the editor-in-chief of the online publication Page Turn, and I run a small publishing house. Crazy busy, but I like it." He perked up noticeably. "Publishing house? Seriously? What's your specialization?" "Contemporary fiction mostly. We look for fresh voices, help talented authors break through." When the taxi stopped in front of his house in a not-so-great Boston neighborhood, he unexpectedly asked, "Could I get your card, in case I decide to write something?" I handed him my business card with a smile. "Good luck, Alex. It was nice to meet you." The next day, I received a message on LinkedIn. "Hi, Emily. This is Alex, copy editor from Prose and Pages. Thanks for the ride yesterday. I've been reading reviews of your book. Impressive. Could you give some advice to an aspiring writer?" I replied an hour later. "Hey, Alex. Glad you're interested in writing. Best advice. Just write. Every day, even if it seems like garbage. If you'd like, I can take a look at your texts." A week later, we met at a small coffee shop near Harvard. He turned out to be an interesting conversationalist, talked about his dream of writing a novel, his years working as a copy editor. I listened, sipping my chai latte. "You have a good style," I said after reviewing his texts. "But there's some uncertainty. You need more practice." "Time is catastrophically scarce," he sighed. "This copy editing job is draining, plus commuting from the suburbs every day. And my sister is sick. I'm helping my parents with medical bills." He lowered his eyes. Something in his story touched me, though an inner voice whispered, "Be careful, Em. Have you thought about changing jobs? We just opened a position for a culture section editor at our publication." "Seriously?" "But I don't have experience. But you have instinct and education. I've seen your resume." I smiled. "Come in for an interview on Monday." The salary is twice what you make as a copy editor, plus medical insurance from day one. That's how our journey began. The interview went well, and soon Alex became part of our team. I occasionally invited him to lunch, asked about his work, gave advice. Gradually, our meetings became more frequent. Art galleries in Soho, Broadway premieres, literary evenings. I didn't even notice how I began to change. I, a woman who had worn nothing but black turtlenecks and jeans for years, suddenly bought a red dress, then a blue one, even a yellow one. Yellow, Carl! In April, I visited my stylist and emerged with a new haircut. I started smiling for no reason again, listening to Taylor Swift and singing along to the radio in the car. All because of him. One May evening, we were sitting by the window at Hemingway's Corner, that trendy restaurant where you need to book a table a month in advance. Starched tablecloths, candles, glasses of Cabernet Sauvignon. I was wearing my new cornflower blue dress, watching the twinkling lights of Manhattan through the window. You know, in this light, you look absolutely stunning. Alex leaned across the table. I turned, unable to hold back my smile. Oh, stop it. It's just that with you, I feel like I can breathe deeply again. He reached across the table and covered my fingers with his. That night, I couldn't sleep, staring at the ceiling of my Upper West Side apartment. For the first time in many years, I felt that forgotten feeling. Butterflies in my stomach. God, could it be that I, Emily Frost, a 30-year-old self-sufficient career woman, had fallen in love like a schoolgirl? Our relationship progressed at the pace of a bestseller, rapidly, captivatingly, with unexpected twists. By June, we were spending almost every evening together. In July, I introduced him to my friends. By August, my neighbors knew him by name and greeted him in the elevator. My friends were thrilled. "Girl, you finally stopped living just for work," said Jessica, my literary agent and best friend since college. She was the only one who dared to ask, "Aren't you two moving a bit too fast?" "Maybe," I answered then, stirring my cosmopolitan. "But you know, at my age, I don't want to play these endless mind games. When you know what you want, why wait?" Alex was attentive, caring, intelligent. He listened, asked questions, showed interest in my work. For the first time in my life, I felt valued not just for my achievements or status, but simply for being me. "You work too much," he would say, massaging my shoulders when I sat at my laptop late into the night. "I'm used to it," I'd reply. "When you live alone, work replaces everything." "You're not alone anymore," he'd whisper, kissing my neck. One warm May evening, we were walking through Central Park when Alex suddenly stopped near the Bethesda fountain. I didn't immediately understand what was happening when he dropped to one knee. "Listen, I know we haven't known each other that long, just 3 months," he faltered, looking at my stunned face. "But sometimes a day is enough to know. This is it. Emily, will you marry me?" I froze. My pupils dilated, my lips parted. Nearby, Japanese tourists started taking photos, and some girl with a dog stopped and pressed her hands to her chest. "Alex, are you sure?" My voice trembled. "I'm older." "You see how many young, beautiful girls are around?" "I don't care about any of them." He looked up at me with such sincerity in his gaze. "To me, you're the best. I love you, Em." The breeze carried the scent of blooming trees and hot dogs from a nearby cart. Such a New York mix. A saxophone melody started playing somewhere. A street musician, probably. I lowered my hands and my eyes stung. "Yes," barely audible. And then louder, "Yes, of course, yes." Applause erupted around us. Someone whistled. The Japanese tourists excitedly chattered. Alex slipped the ring onto my finger. Nothing flashy, just an elegant diamond in a classic setting. Perfect. That night, I lay awake for a long time, examining the new ring on my hand. For 30 years, I'd been convinced marriage wasn't for me, that I was too independent, too immersed in work, too different. And now everything had changed in an instant. In the morning, I called my mom. "Mom, I'm getting married." The phone exploded with joyous screams. My mom cried, laughed, asked 1,000 questions simultaneously. "Who is he? What does he do? When's the wedding? Is he a good person? God, have I finally lived to see this day?" His name is Alex. He's an editor at my publishing house. The wedding's in the fall. And yes, Mom, he's wonderful. I smiled, listening to her excitement. Thank God, she finally exhaled. I was starting to think you'd live alone with your books forever. In the following months, my life turned into a whirlwind of wedding preparations. Venue, catering, dress, flowers, invitations. The list seemed endless. But strangely, I enjoyed the whole process. I, a woman who for years had declined any parties in my honor, was now happily choosing a cake and music for our first dance. Alex moved in with me almost immediately after the engagement. His belongings fit into one gym bag and a cardboard box. So little for a grown man. But I didn't ask questions. I liked clearing drawers for him, making space in the closet. Do you have any regrets? He'd sometimes ask, holding me in the middle of the night. About what? That everything happened so fast. That now you have to share your life, your space. Never, I'd reply, nestling closer to him. I only regret not meeting you sooner. In October, we finally decided on a wedding venue, a luxurious country club in the Hamptons overlooking the ocean. Too fancy, I hesitated, but Alex insisted, you deserve the best. Jessica insisted on a bachelorette party, a classic bachelorette weekend in Miami. Champagne, dancing until dawn, male strippers, and a hangover the next morning. Everything as it should be. So, how does it feel, the prospect of being married? She asked as we lay on lounge chairs recovering from our night adventures. Strange, I admitted. All my life I thought it wasn't for me, that I was too independent, too focused on my career. And now, it seems I've found someone with whom I don't have to choose between love and work. Jessica lifted her sunglasses, looking at me intently. Just don't forget about a prenup. Honey, I know it sounds cynical, but you've achieved too much to risk it. God, Jess, why would I need a prenuptial agreement? Alex isn't like that. They're all not like that until they become exactly like that. She lowered her glasses back down. Just saying. But I just waved her off. Deep down, I was confident our love would withstand anything. My parents flew in from Arizona 2 days before the wedding. Mom, entering the presidential suite at the Four Seasons that I'd booked for them, burst into tears of joy. Baby girl, she whispered, hugging me, I'm so proud of you. You've accomplished so much, and now you've found such a wonderful man. I introduced my parents to Alex over dinner that same evening. Dad, usually taciturn and stern, blossomed when Alex started asking him about fishing. See? Mom whispered to me when we were alone in the ladies' room. Even your father likes him. That's a sign. The wedding day dawned clear and windless. Perfect autumn weather, as if custom ordered. The sun sparkled on the Atlantic waves. A light breeze stirred the ribbons on the ceremonial arch. I stood before the mirror in my Vera Wang wedding dress, a classic silhouette of silk and lace, accentuating my figure without excess. Mom wiped away tears while the stylist secured my veil. Nervous? Asked Jessica, fixing my makeup. Strangely, no. I smiled at my reflection. For the first time in my life, I'm absolutely sure of my decision. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock. Guests were already gathering, colleagues from the publishing house, writers, editors, friends, relatives. 200 people, most of whom I had invited myself. Surprising how, for someone who considered herself an introvert, I had so many close connections. Alex should have been there already. Tradition, the groom waits for the bride at the altar. I sent him a message. Can't wait to see you. Love you. At 3:30, my phone rang. It was Jeff, Alex's cousin. Hey, Jeff, is something wrong? There was a pause. Too long. Emily. His voice sounded strange. I need to talk to you. Urgently. Right now? Jeff, I'm getting married in half an hour. Can it wait? No. He exhaled as if about to dive into icy water. It's about Alex. You need to know. Emily, I accidentally overheard a conversation. Jeff's voice sounded muffled. Alex is in the smoking room with my brother. They didn't know I was nearby. My heart started pounding in my throat. Jessica, seeing my expression, moved closer. What exactly did you hear? I tried to speak calmly, but my fingers gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. He ... Jeff hesitated. Alex said he's marrying a publishing house, that he got lucky scoring such a jackpot in New York. Something about your apartment and money. The room began to spin. Jessica took the phone from me. Jeff? This is Jessica. What the actual fuck? Are you sure? I couldn't hear the response, but I saw my friend's face change, from disbelief to fury. Is he still there? She asked sharply. Stay put. We're coming. Jessica hung up and turned to me. Breathe. We need to check this before doing anything. Check what exactly? My voice sounded strange, as if coming from somewhere else. That the man I love has been using me this whole time? Maybe Jeff misunderstood. Jessica tried to be rational, but I saw doubt in her eyes. Let's go, but quietly. We left the bride's suite and headed to the men's side. Jessica walked ahead, holding the train of my dress. Mom stayed with the makeup artist, unaware of what was happening. The smoking room was in the east wing. The heavy oak door was ajar, as if someone had left and not closed it completely. Jeff was waiting for us in the hallway, pale and troubled. They're still in there, he whispered. I approached the door. Alex's voice came through clearly. Can you believe it? I'm now officially married to a publishing house? He laughed. Plus, I get an Upper West Side apartment in the bargain. Another voice, presumably Jeff's brother, asked something I couldn't make out. What can I do? Alex again. I close my eyes and think about her money. His laughter cut through me like a knife. I was actually hoping she'd lose some weight for the wedding, but this cow seems to have gotten even bigger. I froze, feeling the blood drain from my face. Jessica squeezed my hand, so hard that it would probably leave bruises. How long can you live like this? Asked the second voice. As long as it takes. For that kind of money? Alex laughed again. The main thing is to get a couple of books published through her. Then even if we divorce, I'll have made a name for myself. And if I can get half of her property... He didn't finish. I pushed the door open and walked in. Alex and his companion turned sharply. The expression of horror on my fiancé's face was almost comical. Eyes wide, mouth open, whiskey glass frozen midway. Emily. He started to stand up. It's not what it... Stop. I raised my hand. Surprisingly, it wasn't shaking. I heard everything. A dead silence fell over the room. Jeff's brother stared at the floor. Alex turned pale, his gaze darting between me and the door as if calculating escape routes. Baby, let's talk. He took a step toward me. It's just stupid guy talk, you understand? Don't baby me. My voice sounded cold and calm. I was even surprised by my own composure. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going back to the guests now, and you're going to pack your things and disappear from my life. Forever. Emily, please. And don't worry about work, I continued, ignoring his pleas. I'll sign your termination papers on Monday. Until then, consider yourself on unpaid leave. Jessica behind me made a sound suspiciously like a suppressed laugh. You can't just... I can. I removed my engagement ring and placed it on the table next to his unfinished whiskey. And I am. The turn I made leaving the room was worthy of a drama queen. The train of my dress swirled, scattering tiny pearls across the carpet. I didn't look back. In the hallway, Jessica caught up with me. Holy shit, Em. Are you okay? No, I answered honestly. But I will be. We returned to the bride's suite, where Mom was still chatting with the makeup artist. Seeing my face, she stopped mid-sentence. Honey? What happened? I took a deep breath. There won't be a wedding, Mom. What? Why? She looked at the clock in panic. But the guests are already here. The orchestra is playing. Your father put on a suit. I'll explain everything, I promised. But first, I need to do something. Jessica looked at me questioningly. What exactly? Tell the guests. I'm not going to hide or send someone else with bad news. This is my wedding, and I'll tell them myself that it's not happening. Em, are you sure? Jessica frowned. Maybe I should do it? No, I squared my shoulders. I can handle this. Walking out to 200 guests and announcing the cancellation of the wedding was perhaps the most difficult thing I'd ever done. But when I took the microphone, I suddenly felt a strange calm. "Dear friends," I began, looking at the hushed hall. "I'm grateful to everyone who came today to share this day with us. In publishing, we often say that a true story is not just what you see on the surface." Guests exchanged glances, not understanding where I was going. Every writer knows. Any story has several layers. What we see and what's hidden from view, I continued. Today I realized that our story with Alex also has a hidden layer. Unfortunately, it turned out to be not as romantic as it seemed. A murmur ran through the hall. One of my cousins gasped. "I won't make a scene," I said with dignity. "I'll just do what an editor does with subpar material. Close the project at the initial stage." I took a deep breath and exhaled. Our story ends on this page. There will be no wedding. An overwhelming silence fell. Then someone from the back rows began to applaud. A few more people joined in. And suddenly the entire hall erupted in applause and shouts of support. "I'm sorry for such an ending." I smiled through unexpected tears. My grandmother often said, "The bitterness of an ending is better than endless bitterness." Please don't leave. The banquet is paid for. Help yourselves. I descended from the small stage and headed for the exit. Back straight, head held high. Jessica immediately materialized beside me like a faithful bodyguard. In the taxi, I finally allowed myself to cry. But strangely, these weren't tears of despair. Rather, relief. I wiped my cheeks and took a deep breath. Better to know the truth now than live a lie for years. "How are you?" Jessica asked quietly, squeezing my hand. "I'll survive." I smiled weakly. "You're such a badass." She hugged my shoulders. "I couldn't have left so gracefully." You know, I'm grateful for my intuition and Jeff. Better to learn the truth now than later when everything would be even more complicated. The taxi stopped at my building. The familiar entrance, the apartment where I would live alone again. And strangely, this thought didn't frighten me. It reassured me. I'm so serious. A year and a half passed. Spring turned to summer, then autumn, winter. The sun was warming again when I, with a light tan from a recent trip to Bali, sat in Cafe Lalo on the Upper West Side. I wore a beige dress, and on the table were 2 glasses of red wine. I still don't understand how you convinced me. I twirled my glass, watching the play of light in the dark liquid. After the wedding fiasco, I swore off dating completely. I thought, that's it. Enough? My companion, a broad-shouldered man with a neat beard and laugh lines around his eyes, gently covered my hand with his. "I'm glad you took a chance," he said simply. "You're wonderful, Emily." I looked up, studying his face. For the first time in years, I felt that a man saw the real me. Not the successful editor, not the owner of an Upper West Side apartment, not the literary award winner. You know, sometimes I think I needed that terrible day. I squeezed his fingers slightly. Painful, humiliating, yes. But without it, I wouldn't have come to your art studio. Wouldn't have met you. Per aspera ad astra, he smiled, and the lines around his eyes deepened. I think we've both been through enough to appreciate what we've found. Do you really think so? I tilted my head. There was still a shadow of distrust in my gaze. 100%. He intertwined his fingers with mine, gently but firmly. And you know what? I think this story would make an excellent novel. I laughed. Maybe, but then we'd need a happy ending. We're working on that right now. He winked, raising his glass. Cheers to new beginnings. To new beginnings, I echoed, clinking glasses with him. Outside the cafe, the first spring leaves were swirling, and New York, as always, was noisy, rushing, and living its own life, not noticing one more love story that was just beginning. As for Alex, after the scandal at the failed wedding, he tried to return to provincial journalism, but his reputation in literary circles was hopelessly ruined. Word travels fast in our small world. Rumors about how he tried to use a successful woman for his career and money spread instantly. I heard he now works as a copywriter at a small advertising agency somewhere in New Jersey. Sometimes I see his clumsy attempts to publish articles under pseudonyms. Jessica once saw him at a Starbucks in Hoboken. He pretended not to notice her. But you know what? I'm grateful to him. Really. Because sometimes you need to go through hell to find your true happiness. And now, when I wake up every morning next to a person who loves me, not my status or bank account, I understand. Everything happened exactly as it was supposed to. The end. Or maybe just the beginning. Friends, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, leave your comments below, and share this story with your friends. Your support means everything.